Welcome to Native Bidaské, Native News Online's weekly spotlight on the people making news and leading change in Indian country.
Welcome to another episode of Native Bidaské. I'm Levi Rickert, the host, and I am editor, publisher of Native News Online. Joining us today is best-selling author Daniel H. Wilson. He is a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, and he has written several books. And he has a new book coming out on October 7th called Hole in the Sky, A Tale of Native First Contact. And he resides out in Portland, Oregon. Welcome to Native Bidaské, Daniel. Let's get this show going.
Yeah. Hey, Levi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, tell me, how did you become a writer? I mean, that's pretty cool. You got your PhD in robotics, and it's kind of an interesting combination.
Yeah. I just grew up reading a lot. I love science fiction. I was reading it all the time, living in my head. And I wanted to be a science fiction author, but I didn't really think that was actually a job that you could have, like that would pay you money. So as a sort of a consolation prize to science fiction, I was forced to study real science. So when I found out that you could really study robotics and artificial intelligence as a kid, I thought that was pretty cool. So I did that. And then once I had studied it all, then suddenly people were interested in my science fiction. So I never did end up getting a job as a roboticist. I just started writing books, and I've just been going with that.
That's fantastic. And tell us about you being Cherokee. Did you grow up Native? As they say, I was raised Indian. Or were you raised Indian, or you grew up in a suburb city? Tell us about your background.
Sure. So I grew up in North Tulsa. So, technically that's on the Cherokee Reservation now after the McGirt decision.
Sure.
But that's in the Cherokee Nation. I didn't grow up, super traditional. There's stuff that once you leave Oklahoma, you think, I tried to get my friends to do a sweat lodge with me, and they were like, "What are you talking about?" So there's some stuff that you carry with you, but I didn't grow up super traditional, but I did. I grew up going to my grandparents' farm, which was out in Sallisaw in northeastern Oklahoma. And for this new book, I kind of went back there because it's real close to this place called Spiro Mounds, which it's the westernmost outpost of the Mound Builder civilization. Real ancient stuff, really, really cool location, a lot of cool history there. And so it's kind of where I went back to for this new novel, is going back to the Mound Builders.
So you did a little research on that, and what did you learn?
Yeah, there's just so I write science fiction, and
Sure.
usually I have a lot of native characters, a lot of native stuff that goes on, just because where I was raised, so it's like, it's robots and native people. It's like native people in the future. And I think when most people think about science fiction, they think about the future. And when they think about native stuff, they think about the past, So going back there, going to Spiro, finding out, that those mounds are laid out in the same pattern as the Pleiades constellation, the Seven Sisters, and, diving into some of the Cherokee cosmology and mythology, I realized there's a bunch of science fiction that's native, right? Like the Star Woman, the idea of Cherokee people coming from the Pleiades constellation to Earth. I just dove into a bunch of really fun Cherokee history and mythology that, from my perspective, is science fiction. I mean, if you're talking about people flying through outer space, that's science fiction, even though people don't really think of it when they think of native stuff. But I found it out there, and I had an awesome time writing it.
Yeah, so I do like the intersection between the past and the future, as you referenced. So it's pretty neat. So you intentionally incorporate Native Americans into your stories?
Well, I mean, it's just what I know. You know what I mean? Like, so
It's who you are, huh? I
know a lot about robots, and I know a lot about growing up in Oklahoma. So
Okay.
that's what my books end up being, just like the focus group said. No, it's just that happens to be like where I'm coming from. And so that's what I end up writing. My favorite thing to do is have native people just doing nothing. Like, why people feel like, oh, you have to be like invoking that, if you're bringing that in, but why not just have people living their lives? Why can't somebody just be native, just to be native in a book or in a movie. And so I do, I do that. I just have native people. Other times it's thematically important. For this book, it's about first contact with an alien entity that happens in Spyro, in the mounds. And so, the native stuff, it is important, right? Like all the Cherokee mythology there is important to the book, because it's kind of it's an alternate sort of viewpoint than sort of just what you usually see in an alien invasion story, where the military shows up and they blow everything up, or the scientists are there studying everything. So that was really intentional this time, but that just ends up being what I write because it's what I know.
And as we all know, there's no set definition about what a native person's supposed to be doing in life, right?
Yeah.
And we live in
Well,
contemporary times, and none of us will go back to how it used to be. And so,
yeah. I mean, that's how I feel. I feel like if you, if anything that I'm writing, anything that people are creating, that's an example of being native. It's there. It is what it is. And so, yeah, maybe it doesn't always conform to the old stereotypes and stuff like that, especially if you're writing about science fiction about the future and you're looking at, it's a new look, right? So yeah, I really enjoy getting to be able to do that. Even growing up, in the city, and having the upbringing that I had.
yeah, so I do like the intersection between the past and the future, as you referenced. So
Yeah.
it's pretty neat. Uh, so you intentionally incorporate Native Americans into your stories.
Well, I mean, it's just what I know. You know what I mean? Like, so
It's who you
sometimes
are, huh? I
I mean,
love it.
I know a lot about robots and I know a lot about growing up in Oklahoma. So
Okay.
that's what my books end up being, just like the focus group said. No, it's just that happens to be like where I'm coming from. And so that's what I end up writing. My favorite thing to do is have native people just doing nothing. Like why people feel like, oh, you have to be like invoking that, if you're bringing that in, but why not just have people living their lives? Why can't somebody just be native just to be native in a book or in a movie? And so I do, I do that. I just have native people. Other times it's thematically important, for this book, it's about first contact with an alien entity that happens in Spyro, in the mounds. And so, the native stuff, it is important, right? Like all the Cherokee mythology there is important to the book, because it's kind of it's an alternate sort of viewpoint than sort of just what you usually see in an alien invasion story, where the military shows up and they blow everything up, or the scientists are there studying everything. So that was really intentional this time, but that just ends up being what I write because it's what I know.
And as we all know, there's no set definition about what a native person's supposed to be doing in life, right?
Yeah.
And we live in
Well,
contemporary times, and none of us will go back to how it used to be. And so,
yeah. I mean, that's how I feel. I feel like if you, if anything that I'm writing, anything that people are creating, that's an example of being native. It's there. It is what it is. And so, yeah, maybe it doesn't always conform to the old stereotypes and stuff like that, especially if you're writing about science fiction about the future and you're looking at, it's a new look, right? So yeah, I really enjoy getting to be able to do that. Even growing up, in the city, and having the upbringing that I had.
yeah, and I know that artists who paint or whatever, so often non-natives feel like they want to box them in. They have to paint feathers, right?
Yeah.
Or medicine wheels or something, and that's native art. But if you're native and whatever you paint is really native art, and so I love that. So I appreciate your position on that. So um, let's talk about the book and what caused the environmental collapse in the book, in Hole in the Sky, and how does this shape the world in which the characters live?
Yeah, so I told Hole in the Sky from three different perspectives of three characters. So you have kind of the CIA weapons guy, who's got a Delta team, who's sent by the government to deal with this thing that's appeared in Indian country. And then there's also a NASA astrophysicist who spotted the thing, and made it clear that it was coming toward Earth. And then there's a native guy who's just he's Cherokee. He lives in Spiro, and Spiro Mounds are literally his backyard, And so really I wrote these three different characters because I wanted to think about our perspective on the unknown, right? Like when the unknown shows up in our lives, I feel like in our society, there's a big group of people that want to destroy the unknown. They're scared to death of it. And then there's a big group of people that are scientists that want to understand it. They want to break it up into pieces and figure out how to exploit it. And then I think that there's also that perspective of just respecting the unknown and living with it, alongside it, and kind of understanding that we're all part of the same thing, right? Whenever we create this idea that this is the other, this is the unknown, I mean, that's kind of false. We're all actually part of the same fabric of reality. And so having those three perspectives and having those three people really need to come together in order to survive this thing. That's the reason I wrote it that way. And those are three different parts of my own personality. I was a scientist, never got a job, but I was a scientist there. And I grew up near Spiro, and then also I've had a little bit of intersection with the military in terms of doing some contract work for the Air Force. And so, kind of taking those three parts of myself and putting them into those characters to see how different people with different perspectives deal with the unknown.
Well, I'm going to ask you this question. How do you know when those characters come alive in your mind that you can put it on paper, so to speak? How do you develop your characters?
Man, my process is I just start writing. I call it putting clay on the wheel. Like you have to get something out there before you can work with it. And I've written a bunch of books now, but it's always sort of an act of faith, because when I start writing, I leave the computer screen off because I don't want anybody to see how bad it is. But for me, when my characters really come to life is when I'm editing and I'm going back and making it better and better. And honestly, I don't know that I don't have the ability just to throw down something that's brilliant, but I do know when something's getting better or when it's getting worse. And to have that sense, I think that's really the important thing for me with my writing is I just make it a little bit better and a little bit better. And when I can tell when I'm done, I know what this is as good as I'm going to get it. So, that was the process with those characters is just got to get out there and write every day.
Yeah. And talk about the role of the religious sect that's in the book, in the story. How does it influence the society's beliefs and actions?
So I don't really there's not much religion that's in the book. I have got a kind of a character, my character, Jim Hardgray, who lives out in a single wide in Spiro. He lost a child and he's reuniting with his daughter. He lost his daughter as a result of that too, but he had a son that passed away, a little boy. And then he's reuniting with his daughter, who's a teenager. She's really mad at him. And he's just had a lot of trouble. And as a result, he kind of feels forsaken. And so when we meet that character, he's sort of let go of all of his cultural ties. He doesn't feel like that traditional stuff is doing him any good, And so as we progress through the novel and stuff starts happening that he can't explain, he realizes that, all that stuff did give him a framework for how to deal with the unknown, how to live alongside it, and how to survive it. And so as he's reuniting with his daughter, they're getting closer, and things are going crazy in this book. I mean, I don't take it easy. It gets pretty nuts. He's realizing that traditional stuff is what he needs in order to, and some of that's religion, and some of that is just belief systems and just his cultural background.
Yeah,
So,
and I apologize, use the religious, the sect part, but so much of what we do, and I know that other natives have said, don't use the word religion, but it's more ceremonial practices, if anything. So
yeah, I can see that. I can see that kind of making that
so I'll back off that religious sect. Okay. How do you use the setting to reflect themes of survival and resilience?
Yeah, so for this novel, Oklahoma is a character, I mean, it's just the place, just how wide open it is. The mounds themselves are really beautiful. I went and walked the mounds, while I was writing the book just to kind of get it all in my head. And kind of what happens over the course of the book. And actually, so, this is pretty cool. I have teamed up with Sterling Harjo. He's attached to direct this, and I've adapted it for Netflix too. So I've written this novel, and then I just finished writing the screenplay as well. And screenplay, of course, is much more visual, right? So you're thinking, what's this going to look like on film? And so in both the novel and the screenplay, we start out wide open, out on the plains. And as we go into the mounds and we even go underground, it all sort of compresses down into a much more interior mental space. It goes kind of in your own head. And so that was really intentional to go from as the biggest, most wide open place, the Great Plains, and then to compress everything down tighter and tighter until they go through this crucible, of survival, and then come out the other side different.
How does the discovery of the stranger affect the protagonist's understanding of the world and their place in it?
So there's a character called the man downstairs, and he's got access to like this quantum computer that occasionally can predict the future and stuff like that. And so that was a really fun character to just kind of create a narrative structure for the book. The idea is that this quantum supercomputer that he's using, there's something called retrocausality. So if you look at how quantum mechanics works, it works the same going forward through time as it does going backward through time. And some people think that this means you can predict the future, because things that have already happened things that are gonna happen can affect things that are happening now.
Hmm.
And I think that's also a Cherokee belief. I think, that's pretty common to assume that something from the future can affect what's happening now. And that bears out through quantum mechanics. And so having this quantum supercomputer, the man downstairs, he's predicting, he's able to sort of channel the entity, whatever this alien entity that's kind of beyond our understanding is able to sort of talk to us through this really cool, strange computer. And so, yeah, so the man downstairs is a fun character. And lets me scratches my itch in terms of some of the computer stuff that I like to do, and just getting out there a little bit with that.
So are you a techie?
Yeah, I am. I love robotics and AI. Well, I don't really love the direction AI has been going, but I really do. I really do love all that kind of science fiction detail and all that world building that comes from that. But really, that's all just there to amplify the human story. Because, the more I write, the more I love the emotion that comes through in the story, and just, especially with the heart of this story, which is Jim Hardgray and his daughter Tawny, out there in Spyro, trying to survive this and also recover from these horrible things that have happened to them. And so, using all of that science fiction stuff, keeping it simple, but using it to really get the human story across, that's my goal.
Well, that's great. In what ways does the novel explore the conflict between science and faith?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's necessarily a conflict. I mean, my character that is a scientist, she's a NASA astrophysicist, and what she wants to do is see. She wants to see this thing. She's so curious and so excited, and really kind of without fear. And so the way that I kind of think of it is she wants to sort of look into the creator's furnace, into the face of God. And some things are beyond human comprehension. And so that's really, her name's Michaela. And for Michaela, making it all the way to the end, and then, making that decision about whether to look into the face of God, that's really her big decision that she has to make. And it kind of does walk that line between faith and science.
Yeah, and I there again in intersection and what why is the character's trust in ancient technology justified?
Uh, so that's something that I had a lot of fun doing here because I think, in science fiction, but also just generally, when people think of technology, they think of shiny gadgets, they think of like very Western type ideas of what technology is. But I think that Native people have super highly advanced technology,
Mhm.
indigenous technologies. And I think a lot of times people don't even see it. So if you think about the settlers that came to North America, they looked out on the forests and they thought, "Wow, this is like the Garden of Eden." And then you have all these people who are so lucky to live here. Well, in reality, advanced technology had been put in use to create those ecosystems, to tend that ecosystem, forest management for hundreds of years, right? And yet that technology was so advanced that those settlers couldn't even see it, right? And so for me, one of the realizations that Jim Hardgray has while they're interacting with this entity, this thing that's in the mounds, is he realizes that it's a form of technology, and the reason that things are going south is because nobody now can understand how to use this technology. It's literally too advanced, right? Not the guys with all the guns and the advanced, helicopters and the computers and the mapping systems. They don't know jack compared to like this super advanced indigenous technology. And so playing with the idea of what does Western technology look like? What does indigenous technology look like? That's something I had a lot of fun with in this novel.
Yeah, and as somebody who has a degree in robotics, and there's discussions going on now with indigenous knowledge. Some people call it indigenous wisdom. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I'm pretty excited that it's happening. It seems
Yeah,
to be
I
in a
mean,
space. Yes.
people are looking backward and to move forward. I mean, I live in Oregon now, and Oregon, Washington, California, they're all burning down every year. And
Hmm.
so they're starting to look back. And one thing about Western technology tends to be interchangeable, right? It's like a light switch. I mean, it doesn't care what it's turning on and off, and a light switch is the same everywhere you go, right? But if you think of indigenous technologies, I think usually they stay in their context. They stay in that environment, right? And so if you're going to ask somebody how to do fire management, for instance, you're going to get a different answer depending on where those folks are from, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
the tribes out east are going to have a totally different approach than out west. And that's because I think with indigenous knowledge, it's rooted in a place. It's rooted, in that really super complex system. We're not taking things out and taking away their context. And so I'm real excited that people are starting to respect the idea
Hmm.
that there is indigenous technology that exists and it's worth going back and learning about. But I also think, of course, that there's benefits to Western technology, like Western knowledge. There's room for both, though, and that's something that happens in this novel as well. Is people put their heads together like that.
And when you can merge it, I think that's really. I love your answer about location, and I was thinking in terms of Vine Deloria, native scholar who of renown wrote about time and place, and we is real contextual to the point that natives think in time and place. So I love that. So thank you for that answer. Hey, you mentioned a project with Sterling. So you're saying that this book is already in the works for a to go to the screen there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's pretty exciting. It there's never any guarantee that they're going to make the movie, but
Okay.
they did buy it. Netflix did, and I did write the script. So I wrote the novel and then I adapted it into a screenplay. And I've been talking with Sterling the whole time. So I pitched him this idea for this novel, and he was like, "Far out, man! All right, like
That's
native aliens and stuff. Hell yeah, let's do it."
Sterling's
So
a good guy.
yeah, no, I mean, super creative and just and with him, like going back, I had finished the novel, and he thought that's terrific. Now let's make our movie. And
Wow.
so he has had lots of input on the movie version, which has made it change a little bit, but only in great ways. I mean, it can't be a book and a film. You gotta, they're totally different mediums. So
Yes, yes.
I'm really excited about the script. I'm waiting to hear back from Netflix on that. And dude, I mean, it would be amazing to get that on film. It would
Well,
be really cool to go back.
I wish you the best on that. Now, what's more difficult, to write the book or the screenplay
I mean, I like both of those endeavors are different. Writing a book
Sure.
is really lonely, right?
Oh
You're
yeah.
sitting there, and it's pretty much just me, and I haven't my editor at Doubleday. So that's really fun but lonely. And then, whenever you're writing a script, you've got everybody and their sister's got an idea. It's really collaborative. And so then maybe you're not lonely enough. So sometimes, it's nice to be able to do both because there are different skill sets and everything. But I will say this time I took it easy on myself because, Robopocalypse, my first novel, that a lot of my stuff gets bought to be turned into films, and then nothing's ever been made. And it's because, Robopocalypse jumps all over the world and it's really hard to film. The Clockwork Dynasty, that one jumps through time, back and forth through time. That's really hard to film. With this one, I was like, I'm going to take it easy on myself. I know I have to adapt it. We're just going to move through time. This will take it'll be 3 or 4 days, it'll be mostly in Oklahoma. So I took it easy on myself this time, and didn't make it too hard of a job for me.
And I think working with Sterling is a plus.
Yeah, well, I mean, he'll call it if he thinks anything is a little bit BS. He'll call it out right away. So
Sure. Sure.
definitely has definitely improved my whole thinking about the project, and then also certainly the script.
Yeah, and tell us how the book is called. Just Hole in the Sky. We're talking to Daniel Wilson. The book comes out October 7th, and that will be all over bookstores
Yeah,
and Amazon or
yeah, that'll be everywhere, and I'll be at the University of Tulsa giving a talk that night. That's free for anybody that wants to come. So and then I'll be talking in the Tahlequah Library a couple days after that. So I'm going to be out staying with my dad and hanging out in Tulsa for a couple weeks while the book comes out. So that's also pretty special. I'm able to set the book where I'm from, and then get to hang out there and see all my folks and friends for the book release. But yeah, it'll be available everywhere.
very exciting. Now, not to get political per se, but we live in challenging times as Native people. What gives you hope right now?
The Cherokee Nation. When I hear news coming out of there, like they're taking care of their citizens. Like I see a lot of times when I see news from Oklahoma, I'm like, oh, Oklahoma.
Mhm.
But seeing the way they're taking care of with the hospitals and just all the getting
Phenomenal,
identification to
phenomenal.
everybody,
Yes.
taking care of people's health. I mean, I love it. It's like a ray of sunshine that's coming out of northeastern Oklahoma, and it makes me very happy that there's some good stuff going on out there.
Yeah, and I these days, I love talking very positive because if you think about sometimes just watching the news can be very depressing, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
and I'm in the news business, but it can be depressing. But last week I had the opportunity. I would moderate a panel at the National Congress of American Indians in Washington, and Chief Hoskin was part of that panel. And so afterward, I was able to interview him and spend some time with him and his staff. And he is a innovative leader, and I get excited when I'm around him. He's just so
yeah.
positive.
I gotta say, yeah, I love the guy. They started. He gets around too. I mean, so he comes out here even to Portland for the at-large meeting. So I mean,
Sure,
it's
sure.
great for everybody to get a chance to meet him. I kind of froze up a little bit when I met him. I didn't even tell him that I'm a writer or anything. I just said hi and shook his hand, and but they've got the Cherokee Nation Film Commission out there. They've got a
Mhm.
studio. They're really getting out ahead of letting Native people tell their own stories instead of
Mhm.
having other people show up and try to tell our stories for us. And so, I love that push. Obviously, as a writer, as a creative person, I love to see that there's a focus there on putting our own stories into our own hands.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I founded Native News Online. It will be 15 years in February, and that was really the premise. It's time for us to tell our own stories. And
Yeah,
we
yeah,
we have not, Daniel, we have not been happy with how our stories have been told by the other people. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Not always.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that I've been doing myself. That's part of the reason why I adapted this novel myself, is because I've had uh I've had other screenwriters in Hollywood adapt my stuff before, and they really don't know what to do with Oklahoma. That's not a place that most folks understand real well, like even thinking about reservations and stuff like that, everybody's got these ideas that are not really consistent with what life is really like out there,
Mhm.
because it is so different everywhere, but people just kind of have stereotypes in their head a lot of times. So, yeah, that's been part of my thinking, is trying to take over those stories myself, because, if not me, who?
Yeah. Well, and Chi Miigwech for your work. We need more Native writers. And last question, what would you tell young people who aspire to be authors?
Man, I will say this. When you're young, you think that I've never met a young person who, including myself or my friends, who thought, oh, my life is exciting. Like, this is a really exotic, exciting place. You always think where you're from is boring. It's like, oh, everything's the same. But in reality, once you get out of, if you leave that little area that you're from, a lot of times you'll find that you've had a very unique experience that other people don't know about, and are interested in. And so for me, I just thought Oklahoma was kind of the way everything was, And then when I left to go to graduate school, I realized, oh wow, nobody understands what life it was like out there, and that's valuable. People want to know about that. So really leaning into your own unique background, and then also, you need to know why you're telling the story you're telling. So that's the story behind the story. And once you know that, if you're writing about truth and you understand why you're telling the story, then I think you'll be all right. So that's my advice.
Well, thank you, Daniel. We've been talking to Daniel Wilson. His book comes out, Hole in the Sky, October 7th. So please go get it. If you order your things online, you can get it from Amazon. You can probably order it now and it'll get to you right around the 7th. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, Daniel, and hope you have a great week.
Yeah, you too, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And to our viewers, Chi Miigwech for tuning in to another episode of Native Bidaské. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode of Native Bidaské. In the meantime, young ones take care of those elders, and elders give those babies hugs. We all are in this together. Chi Miigwech.
Thank you for joining us. If you value our warrior journalism for Indian country, please consider supporting our work by scanning the QR code or visiting the link below. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and sign up for our free daily newsletter.